So I'm just going to give a very brief presentation about the HEAnet NOCs. We actually have two of them. There's, if you like, the main NOC and the schools NOC. One looks after the third and fourth level and research institutions. There's about 64 clients on that network. And then the schools network operations center looks after about 4,000 connected primary and second level, so I think go up to K-12 in US terms, up to about 18, 19 years of age in education terms. So the HEAnet network is a national dark fiber, predominantly dark fiber network. We're not a very big country, so our dark fiber network is about 2,600 kilometers, maybe a little bit more at this stage. And we supplement that with managed circuits ranging from everything from ADSL up to 10 meg 1 gig and typically licensed point-to-point microwave links, so anywhere between 100 meg and 800 meg wireless links. It's a national network, and we deliver the service direct to our customers. So we don't, if we get tail circuits from a telco or from another provider, we actually manage those as well. So we actually deliver the last mile connection right to our customers' doors in every case, or at least we manage it. Though we don't dig the roads, so we lease fiber, we buy circuits, so they're not our circuits per se, or they're not our fiber. It's all leased, but we manage it. Going through the three layers, layer 1 or transmission is ADVA FSP 3000 and eROADM, so release 7 and release 6 of the ADVA transmission equipment that lights our fiber. Layer 2, it is predominantly Cisco equipment, so 7200, 7600, 3750, 3400s, and the school's 100 meg network, which is a new national network that we've rolled out and look after, is based on Juniper MX480 equipment. So we actually have effectively at layer 2 we have two national networks, one for the schools and one for third, fourth level and research. And then at layer 3 we have a mixture. Our, if you like, key layer 3 POPs are Cisco CRS1s. We run a pair of them in failover mode, and a third one back at the lab to test stuff, because you can't always rely on the supplier actually testing features they claim to have before they release them in the wild. And then we have a good collection of Juniper and Cisco customer premises equipment around the place. And we're truly a heterogeneous network. You know, we have a number of other suppliers and their equipment in there as well. So connectivity, sorry, just going through the services. Connectivity service is kind of an obvious service, and we'll come to SLAs in a minute, but we look at this year 99.97% availability where resilient connection is available. IP connectivity, again, fairly obvious. We connect people to the internet, not just to one another, but also to the wider internet, so IP in transit. I wasn't going to put in V4 and V6, but I guess I should make it really clear we've been doing V4 and V6 production for many years now, and I think every NREN, if I can plant my political flag, every NREN should be seriously either already production ready IPv6 or seriously thinking about it and rolling it out now, really. HEAnet also offers above the network layer any number of network value added services, including storage, co-location, data centers. We offer advice, and indeed we procure software and hardware on behalf of our customers and clients. We offer consultancy and advice on all kinds of network related things, and some that aren't even really directly network related but are, let's say, technologically related. And that's the front cover of our ITIL service catalogue. So more on that and more on ITIL a little later on. It's a relatively new thing still for us, but a services catalog, which is available online, details all the services that HEAnet offer. Just very quickly running through tools, we have, I think, most of them. Unfortunately, like many other networks, we're a victim of having used any number of tools as they were good and never really decommissioning them. But we're working now towards really strategically picking the tools we want to use. So we have RT, which is a ticketing system. That's coming online in the next couple of months. We're replacing our in-house tickets and incident management system with an RT-based system. For graphing and historical monitoring, moving towards Cacti for alerting, Nagios, and we already have a pretty big Nagios installation in place. But we also have MRTG, Cricket, a whole load of legacy tools. We also are running Perf Sonar and a number of vendor-specific tools like, for example, the Adva FSP Manager. So anybody who sits on our NOC has to have actually quite a large breadth of experience and knowledge about the tools, because there's, if for no other reason, because there's so many tools. We run 24/7 by 365 NOC, so we are available any hour of the day or night, any day of the year, including Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So we break that up into 0900 to 1730 normal working days, where we actually have people in the NOC manning it, actively keeping an eye on things. And then outside those hours, we guarantee that there is somebody on call and that there are escalation paths in place for that. So we've got quite a loose SLA on that, in that we guarantee that somebody who calls with a problem will get a response within 1 hour. But in practice, every incident out of hours has been dealt with so far, touch wood, within about 15 to 20 minutes. We've never had one stretch longer than that yet. But we guarantee 1 hour, and that's that's a very important concept to take away from SLAs, that they are guaranteed, or they're very strong targets that you should be hitting. We use an in-source NOC with a weekly rota system. So we have about 35 engineers on staff, and all of them rotate on and off the NOC. So we don't have NOC staff per se. We have all the technical engineers within the company, be they network engineers or system administrators. They all take part in the NOC rota, who act then as a front desk, answering emails, making sure SLAs are adhered to, monitoring the tools, making sure any issues that come up with are dealt with, and liaising then between clients and suppliers and support providers to ensure that any faults are rectified within SLA and so on and so forth. And we break that down as 2 primary engineers. So we always have, during working hours, 2 people actively manning the NOC. We have 1 backup person who is essentially a named individual that if, for example, if one of the primary people falls ill or is indisposed in some way, that backup person can be called on. Also, if something bad happens, which very occasionally does, that backup person is the first person that gets called and say, hey, drop everything, you're now on NOC as well. And indeed, for severe incidents, the entire technical staff of the company is made available for dealing with, extreme NOC incidents, of which, again, touch wood, we've only had 1 or 2 of in the last 3 or 4 years. So hopefully few and far between. We do outsource some of our support. None of the NOC role is outsourced, bar the call answering for out of hours. So we do have an answering service. Rather than having a person sitting waiting for the phone to ring, we outsource just that phone answering part. So they will take a message. If somebody calls in, they will take a message and immediately escalate it to an on-call engineer who will call back the client. So that's how we operate out of hours, and we make sure that our clients, when they ring, they get a physical human person who can who can deal with it appropriately. Even though they don't have technical knowledge, they will assess how urgent effectively it is that it's raised to an engineer. And our clients can, at their discretion, say, oh, actually just send the NOC an email if it can be dealt with tomorrow morning. Or they can do the opposite and say, this is a severe problem. I want somebody dealing with it immediately, if not sooner. And the person who answers the phone, that answering service, will say that's no problem. They'll take a contact number and say, okay, a HEAnet NOC engineer will call you back, typically within 15 minutes and often less. So we do outsource the support, such as equipment replacement, going out to site to replace broken switches or routers or whatever. And we also outsource the support and maintenance of the optical transmission layer. So that's not an expertise we have in-house. Though a few of our guys would make a fair fist of it, I think, but we outsource that to NSN, our current providers, and we liaise with them very, very closely when they're doing any maintenance. So, they'll always clear it with us first, or indeed we'll ask them to do it. So front end, as I mentioned, we've got 2 NOCs. The HEAnet NOC is about 64 clients, and the schools NOC has about 4,000 connected schools, both nationally distributed within the island of Ireland. The customers are typically university IT and IS departments and IT personnel and research organisations. So for the 64 client NOC, the NOC acts as a third line support. So typically there's IT people on site who will do the kind of, have you tried turning it off and on again, troubleshooting. So if it gets, if it's more complex than that, or if it's more serious than that, so fibre break, a switch problem, whatever, it'll get escalated to us. And there's actually first and second line support, which is outsourced for the schools NOC. So they will do the troubleshooting, and they will speak directly with, if you like, the teachers and students and headmasters in the 4,000 schools, again escalating to the schools NOC where there's a network problem. Tools, we have a self-built, I put CRM there, customer relationship management. It's not really a customer relationship management system. It's actually a NOC operational system for managing data, but it has a lot of the features that CRM systems that you might typically see have. So we use that very heavily in the NOC to manage who we should be talking to, who our provider contacts are, who our supplier contacts are, and who has authority to request changes or request amendments be made. And of course, the ticketing system. Currently we have a self-built in-house system which we're migrating to RT very soon. The last thing I'll say on SLAs is that we've worked very hard to make sure that every service we offer has at least one SLA attached. So just some examples, 99.97% availability for IP connections where there's resilience, a 2-hour response time to any emails or phone calls will obviously be responded to immediately, but any emails that come into the NOC during business hours will be responded to within 2 hours. And each and every one of our services has some SLA attached, or indeed a number of SLAs. Inter-NOC communication, I found this a very good question. We're very heavily reliant on email. So with things like EduPert, we have defined contact, so we know who to ring, we know who to email. But a lot of the contact comes in through email, and indeed is dealt with through email. So it's archived and managed exclusively through email inboxes. HEAnet and Dante and other communities like that, and indeed our neighbour NRENs, Nairan and Janet and whatnot, we would have a good personal knowledge of the people involved there. So we, through personal contact, we'd know who to call perhaps. But it's quite informal, and all the formal communications that I could determine are pretty much reliant on email, be it other people's ticketing systems sending emails to us, or us sending emails to them. Providers, again, we currently don't automate that, but we do swap ticket reference numbers, so we'll always give them our ticket number, and they'll, if they have a ticketing system, they will give us their reference, or we'll ask for it. So at least it goes on record, and the next NOC engineer can reference the ticket. But that all goes through our ticketing system. and indeed very heavily dependent on email communication and phone communication as well. Customers, as we move towards self-service, so instead of customers having to ring the NOC to get information, we're trying to move towards us making that information available, and the portal is a key tool in that. At the moment it's in beta, it's in production but beta. So our clients can log in and see the status of their network and various different pieces of information as the NOC would see them through that portal. And it's also a tool for archiving data and giving them more information in a more coherent and on-demand method than, you know, simply emailing them saying, hey, we've seen this, you know. And the defined contact is our client DB, our client database, which is an in-house application built specifically for the requirements of our NOC. But the defined contacts, we know who to email, we know who to ring, and most importantly, we know who has authority in each of our clients to request a change, which might be a disruptive change. You know, somebody might ring and say, hey, can you turn off this router? And if that is a person with the appropriate level of authority, then we will respond to that. But obviously we have to have a system to stop any student ringing in or any person ringing in claiming they're somebody from a client and asking us to do something disruptive. Documentation then, our internal wiki is the key source of documentation. It documents our processes, procedures, workflows, escalation paths, all manner of data. All our NOC personnel, and I'd emphasize that, every single one of them is fully authorized and indeed encouraged to edit it and amend it and update it. So through that means we hope we have, you know, good process, good procedures and good data, and it's kept updated because the last person who looks at it, if they realize it's out of date or that there's a mistake or there's an opportunity for improvement, they're actively encouraged to make that improvement and edit it. The wiki is not only on a website, but it's also replicated and available offline as a PDF, which means that, and it's happened once, where the wiki web server or where we had problems getting to one of our POPs where this was hosted, at the time it was only hosted in one POP, the NOC engineers still have access to, granted a slightly out-of-date copy, but they still have access to all the documentation as it was. I think it's at most 7 days ago. Our in-house CRM solution, ClientDB, is invaluable for the NOC. It stores contact information, who's in authority, POP addresses and their contact information, suppliers, providers, all that kind of stuff. The key thing about that is it's an authoritative source of information. So that is the one and only place where a whole set of data is updated. And then that further integrates with other systems. So for example, the ticketing system we're rolling out, you might expect a ticketing system to have a list of the providers and a list of the clients and a list of the circuits and a list of the POPs and addresses and stuff like that. What we've worked very hard to do is ensure that actually all that information and those definitive lists are already in ClientDB. So the ticketing system integrates with ClientDB and pulls its data from that. So we only have one list of clients, one list of POP addresses, one list of contacts and their phone numbers, and everybody knows where to update that. And they know if they update that in one place, that change will propagate to all the other tools, and that's very important. And that's a key strategic tenet of our move towards integration of ITIL methods within HEAnet. So something that we were hoping we could present something on today, but we will present something on in the future. That's it from me. Are there any questions or improvements we could make?
Yes, we have one question from...
Yeah, hi guys, it's Toby here. What wiki system do you use?
Hi Toby. It's either TWiki or MediaWiki. I'm almost certain it's MediaWiki.
And you mentioned about how a PDF is created. Is that done through the wiki software?
I believe it's an add-on. Apologies now, I'll get the exact details, Toby. But I believe it's some kind of a plugin that will run on MediaWiki. I'm almost certain it's MediaWiki. And that we've essentially something as simple as a cron tab that runs every 7 days and generates an updated copy of the offline wiki, which we look after very carefully because there is confidential information in there. But we make sure that the NOC engineers take a copy of that on a regular basis so that they have it available to them in the case of troubleshooting where the wiki isn't available.
Okay, is there any other question? If not, thank you very much, Garrett.